Welcome into Steelers Talk Yinzers. My name is Jack Sperry. Today, I'm going to be answering your questions on the Pittsburgh Steelers just days before NFL free agency kicks off. But before we get going here with the questions, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. NFL free agency is the craziest time of the year. Big changes are going to be made to the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. There's going to be people cut. There's going to be people signed. There might even be a trade if we're lucky. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel right now, and turn on notifications so you know when those big news items happen. We're going to be going live if there is a big story here. So make sure to go ahead, turn on notifications, subscribe to the channel so you're always up to date on all the latest with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going to start today's mailbag with Not Webb's World, who sent in a $2 super chat, and he has the ask here: cut Edumnds if we can't sign Tremaine. So yeah, Terrell Edumnds so you can't cut Edumnds because he's a free agent. So the question is, should the Steelers re-sign him? I think that there's a pretty darn good chance that he comes back. Right now, his market value isn't that high. I think the Steelers like him. He's got some good chemistry with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Now, I know some Steelers fans don't like Terrell Edumnds. They want to get somebody else. But I think that at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that the Steelers will re-sign Terrell Edumnds. So another question coming in here from Zach Ward, who asked, should the Steelers just cut William Jackson and use that salary to re-sign Sutton? 100% yes. I think that we talked about it yesterday on the show. There's a report that the Steelers are planning to cut William Jackson III. It's going to happen maybe even during today's live show, but I guess we'll see on that front. But William Jackson III is not going to be a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers next season unless he re-ups. He's going to get cut. Maybe he re-signs. I don't know. I guess we'll see on that front. But absolutely, use that money to re-sign Cam Sutton. We should be paying that $12 million per season to Cam Sutton. So I'm 100% on board with this idea, Zach. Next question comes from Skylar Strong, who says, if desired offensive lineman and cornerback all taken by 17, should we take Addison? Ooh, this one's a tough one. I think it would depend on who's there at defensive tackle. I really like Kalijah Cansey from Pitt. I think he'd be a great fit. I'd probably take him over Addison, but I'd be willing to take Addison maybe at 17. Addison's a tough one because he did not run what we were expecting him to run at the combine. A lot of people are turned off by that 4.49 40-yard dash time, but he ran good routes. He's got great film. He's got great chemistry with Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't be surprised if offensive line, cornerback, and defensive line, if they're all gone, the Steelers will probably trade down. And then if Addison falls to like the mid-20s or something, that's where you take him. I don't think you take him at 17. I think in this scenario you probably trade down. Next question comes from Dwighty Tighties, who says, could we sign Eric Kendricks? The answer to the question is yes, they could. He's a free agent. He's probably not going to be asking for a ton of money. He's getting a bit older. He had an off season with Minnesota last year. He's a smart player. I just think that the speed is no longer there. He cannot keep up with speedy tight ends and really even slot receivers. He was trying to go up one-on-one against slot receivers last year. I just don't think that that's going to be something that he's going to be able to do. You look at the depth chart, you could bring him in, maybe cut Myles Jack, put him in there, or maybe you can let Robert Spillane go, sign Eric Kendricks instead. But personally, I just don't think Eric Kendricks has it anymore. I think he's a smart player, good veteran player, but I just don't love the fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers personally. So right now, go into the comment section and name a player that you want the Steelers to sign in free agency. Okay, is it Orlando Brown Jr.? Is it Bobby Wagner? Is it James Bradbury? Is it somebody else? Let me know in the comment section right now. Who's the player that you want the Steelers to add in free agency this offseason? This is the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break, go into the comment section, find that pinned comment, and answer today's question. Next question comes from Joe, and he says, Lamar Jackson to the Texans? Thoughts? Now, I mean, maybe? Probably not. That's what I'm going to say right now. I think that the Texans probably want to get one of those younger quarterbacks, either probably Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at the top of the draft. Now, the question is, Is Lamar Jackson better than both of those guys? Right now, yes. But with DeMeco Ryans coming in right now, they're trying to build for the future. Getting a quarterback, and a good quarterback at that, on a rookie contract, I think is something that would be particularly valuable to them. So I don't think the Texans are going to be looking into Lamar too much. Next question comes from W. Repulse, who asks, should the Steelers trade Cam Heyward for a first and second this year and get more cap? Now, first of all, no. I just don't. This isn't going to happen. Cam Heyward, he was arguably an all-pro caliber player last season. They really love him. He's the team captain. I mean, what it would do to the locker room to trade this guy, it would just absolutely destroy the locker room. The players would absolutely be on pins and needles because, I mean, Cam Heyward is about as irreplaceable of a leader as there is in the National Football League. And then his presence along the interior of the defensive line is unmatched. He was fantastic, especially down the stretch last year. I just don't see this happening whatsoever. And even if I had the power to do this, I probably wouldn't do this either. So, guys, if you need a lucky charm for next season, the Steelers could have definitely used a lucky charm this year. But you need to get some green Steelers gear. It is St. Patrick's Day, which means that our website here has a ton of great Steelers apparel. And, you know, if you want to bring the luck of the Irish to Pittsburgh next season, go ahead and get one of these awesome items. I know I'm going to get one of these t-shirts so to make sure that we have that four-leaf clover representing the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. I know these socks right here, guys, these things are going fast right now. They got Steelers on there. They got the clovers on there. I think we got like maybe 10 of these left in stock. These things are going like crazy. So this St. Patrick's Day, go ahead, go to chatsports.com/SteelersGreen to rep the Pittsburgh Steelers this St. Patrick's Day. Next question comes from Steeler Nation, who asks, should the Steelers let go of Devin Bush and draft Noah Sewell? So yes, on Devin Bush, 100%. They're going to let him go. Devin Bush doesn't want to come back. He was benched at the end of last season. He's done at being a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now, Noah Sewell, if he's there, maybe in early day 3, I would do it. He didn't test great at the combine, right? He was a bit slower than people thought. He wasn't as big as he was as playing weight, which I guess you could say is a good thing, but, you know, trimming weight and then still not getting any faster, that's not a good sign. So I think he's probably a day 3 prospect, or at least that's where he should go at this point. If he's available in like round 4, maybe I would take him, but I think that there are better inside linebacker prospects in this year's class. Next up comes from Frankie Montellano, who asks top 3 corner or top 3 offensive lineman. Thanks for the question, boys. All right, so for me, in the draft, I'm going with a top 3 offensive lineman because you can get a really good corner on day 2 in this draft, right? I think Emmanuel Forbes will probably be there on day 2. Kelly Ringo will probably be there on day 2. There's going to be some really good cornerbacks. Julius Brents from Kansas State is probably going to be there on day 2. But if the Steelers are going to be drafting an offensive lineman this year, especially early, it's probably going to be an offensive tackle to be the left tackle of the future. There's only 3 of those guys in this entire draft class. You cannot get that on day 2. So for me, if I have a choice between picking offensive lineman or corner in the first round, I'm taking offensive tackle all day long. Next question comes from Alex Duncan, who asks, are you out on the Steelers signing Odell Beckham Jr.? Yes, I am. He's going to be asking for a ton of money. I think that trying to share the sugar with guys like Deontay Johnson, who expects a certain amount of targets, and George Pickens, who's on the up and up, and then interjecting and injecting Odell Beckham Jr. into that, I just don't think that dynamic works out well. And then plain and simply, I just don't think the Steelers have the money to go get him. He's going to be asking for a ton of money despite coming off a major ACL tear that took him out for the entire season this last year. So I think the Steelers are pretty solid where they're at right now. We'll see on Steven Sims. He's a restricted free agent. Calvin Austin III coming back. His prospects are really nice. George Pickens, really good player. And then Deontay Johnson. I think that rounds out a pretty darn good receiving core. And then, of course, you got 2 pretty darn good receiving tight ends with Pat Freiermuth and Connor Heyward to help you out as well. So no for me on Odell Beckham Jr. But let me know in the comments section right now, would you sign Odell Beckham Jr.? Type OBJ for yes or type no BJ for no. All right, so next question comes from Steeler Nation again, and he asked, should Pittsburgh trade for Sidney Jones? No, they should not. I don't think they should. I think that you could get probably better value than Sidney Jones in the 7th round, to be honest with you. Now, he's a decent player. I think that, you could probably interject him, but He was a candidate at the trade deadline. I think the Steelers are focusing more on getting younger and building through the draft right now. So that's a hard pass for me on Sidney Jones. Next up comes from Rad Swag, who asks, rate this 3-round mock. 17, Broderick. 32, Deontay Banks. 49, Drew Sanders. That'd be a fantastic mock. That's an A for me. That's an A for me because you get your future left tackle in Broderick Jones. He's the guy. He's a mauler. He's got Pittsburgh Steeler written all over him. I would love him at number 17 if he would fall. Then you get Deontay Banks, who in my opinion is a first-round cornerback at the top of day 2. Deontay Banks, great press man corner. I think he's going to be a great talent in the National Football League. And then Drew Sanders is fantastic as well. I really like Drew Sanders. He's going to be someone that's a bit more of a project. He's not really polished in zone coverage or in man coverage yet. So he doesn't have that, but he's a great blitzer. He's great against the run. He's just learning the position, and of course, he's got all those physical tools that you look for. All right, so if you're watching this video right now and it's not Wednesday, that means that you missed this week's live show. That we do our mailbags during our weekly live show. But if you're not watching that right now, you can still give to the channel via Super Thanks. So you can donate outside of live shows. It's a really cool feature that YouTube has. You can click the thanks icon. It's that heart with the money sign in there, and then we appreciate any kind of financial support that you guys are willing to provide. We really appreciate you. And again, if you're watching this, you want to get a question on the show, use Super Thanks to get your question on the show. We got a couple of Super Thanks this past week, so we want to give some thanks to Nicholas Harmon, who gave $2. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for your generous $2 there. And then we got Gary Reynolds. Gary, we appreciate you, Gary. Love the show. Sorry, couldn't get in for the live show. I'm out of town for business, but keep coming with the Steelers news. Appreciate the $10. Super thanks, Gary. Always appreciate your support. So now let's get back to the questions here. From Jay Quest. Should we draft Darnell Washington in the second as a 6th lineman if all the O-line prospects are off the board? So Darnell Washington is a tight end, not an O-line prospect. Okay, so if he's talking about Darnell Wright, out of Tennessee, right tackle in the 2nd round, I wouldn't mind that at all, okay? So I wouldn't mind that if you cut Chukwuma Okorafor. Like, if you're going to bring him in, I just don't see any way of using that high of a pick on somebody that's going to sit the bench. I don't think he's a left tackle in the league. I just don't. I think he's going to be either a right tackle or a guard, and if you still have Chukwuma Okorafor on the roster at his price tag, you are going to play him. So it kind of depends on if they cut Chucks here in free agency, during free agency. If they do, I say go for it. Add him as a or as a right tackle. If not, I would say probably go get a corner or some other position there. So let me know in the comment section right now. Who do you think will go number 1 in the NFL draft this year? Do you think it'll be Bryce Young? Will it be Will Anderson Jr.? Maybe C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson? Let me know in the comment section right now who is going to be the number 1 player off the board come late April. Next question comes from John Phillips, who asks, how about trading 17 and 32 for pick 9? So if they ended up doing this, that means that Peter Skoronski is the only player on their board, or they only have one offensive tackle on their board that they want to take, right? If you have multiple guys left on your board that you would take at left tackle, you're not making this move, plain and simple. You want to keep those high draft picks, as many of them as you can, but if they only have one guy left on their board that they're willing to take at left tackle, then that's when you make the move, in my opinion. At number 9, I don't think any offensive tackles are going to be off the board by 9. I would think they would have more than one offensive tackle on their board that they'd be willing to take. So I'd say this is probably unlikely. And personally, I wouldn't do this either because I like all of Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., and Broderick Jones. So for me, I'm not making this move. I'm keeping that early 2nd round pick. I'm going to get another good player. Next question comes from Black and Gold for Life, who asks, would you trade Deontay Johnson? No, I wouldn't, especially because Matt Canada is still the offensive coordinator. And last year, it was a lot of running the ball on 1st and 2nd down. I think the Steelers led the NFL last year in run, pass sequencing. And it just led to a lot of 3rd downs, a lot of 3rd and mediums. And in order to convert on third and medium like the Steelers did, they were one of the best third down teams in the National Football League towards the end of the year. You need a receiver like Deontay Johnson that can get open against man coverage, because in third down situations, teams like to blitz, teams like to do man coverage. So you need somebody that can consistently win in those situations. And luckily for the Steelers, Deontay Johnson was one of the best get open elite route runner type guys in the National Football League last year. The Steelers offense doesn't do nearly as well as it did last year. And even then, they weren't even that good. Like they did what they did last year in large part because of Deontay Johnson. So with Matt Canada returning with a lot of run, pass sequencing, I want Deontay Johnson on the roster. All right, guys, so now go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Jack_Sperry if you want a shout out on next week's Steelers Talk live show. My promise to you is if you follow me on Twitter, you get additional Steelers and NFL news and rumors content, plus you get a shout out on next week's live show. So go ahead, do that for me right now. That'll be it for me today, Yinzers. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.